right, welcome to the Game 9010. We're so excited to have Sam Brenner in the house.
Thanks
welcome.
for having me. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you. I'm going to give a quick bio intro to let our listeners hear where you're from and what you're about. You're from Oceanside, California. You come from a family of athletes. You played college football at Utah and then signed a free agent contract with Miami Dolphins in 2013, right out of college. You played for 3 years there with Miami Dolphins, then played for Denver Broncos for 2 years. And in 2015, you were playing center for the Denver Broncos, which is the year that they won the Super Bowl. Super exciting.
Yep.
So as I said, you're a center position, and I'd also like to include that you're very passionate about military.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, so we're so excited to dive into some questions with you today.
Okay. Let's
Just starting from kind of a chronological point, can you tell me when did you start in sports?
I started pretty early. I played, I actually had like really bad asthma when I was a kid, so I didn't play football till I got into high school, till 9th grade. But I played like baseball and soccer mostly as like youth sports, and I started playing soccer pretty young. I think, I played that for maybe 5 years prior, 5 years as a youth athlete, and then in middle school too.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that switch like? Just doing mainly baseball, soccer, and
yeah, it was different. I always wanted to play football, but like I said, I had bad asthma and I was a bigger kid, so I would have been playing with kids who were older than me. And my parents were like, "Yeah, we just kind of want to hold you out. Just don't want anything, you to get injured that young." And yeah, the switch was I always wanted to play, so I was really eager when I finally was able to play, like put pads on and play in high school. And but yeah, it was pretty rough. Like it was my first year as a freshman. I was like, this is hard. Everything hurts. Like I had like shin splints and my head hurt from, like banging my head against other people. And yeah, I was like, I don't know if I want to keep playing. And then like my coach and my parents were like, no, you definitely need to keep playing. Like you have some ability in the sport. So
from both your parents and your coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they were more. My parents were like, hey, once you start something, like don't. You need to finish. So it was more of like, you're not, if you say you're going to do it, then you're going to finish what you start. And my coach was like, yeah, you're like, trust me, like you'll grow into your body. Like you're going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so I played my freshman year on the freshman team and then played sophomore, junior, and senior on varsity at Oceanside.
Right on.
Yeah.
And so what were those coach and athlete relationships like? Did you feel a big shift from those earlier, like the little kid sports, especially with that football coach who was able to see potential?
Yeah, definitely. I don't really remember like a youth coach, I don't, you're kind of just a kid running around like chasing a soccer ball around, there's not much like guidance or, you're just out there to have fun, really. And then,
good.
Yeah, right.
I think that's the place for it, right? Is to have fun playing sports.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. That's how it starts. And then, as I got into high school, the coach who stands out the most was my offensive line coach named Rick Girardi, and he kind of was the one who realized like, hey, you've got some skill, and it's just natural ability of being a bigger kid, and you should definitely pursue. And so he really. He was my first like mentor coach, like athlete coach relationship, I'd say. Yeah.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that you were kind of groomed into center position, or did you play others? Yeah, I
played D-line and O-line, offensive line and defensive line originally, and then he's like, I see more potential as an offensive lineman, but I still really liked playing D-line. And he was kind of a senior coach at the school, and also a really good, like, knowledgeable coach for that level. And so he kind of like pushed me more in that direction, I would say, but I was suited more for that naturally, so it worked out well. Yeah.
That's great, and you were happy in that position.
Definitely.
Also, sounds like you're willing to be versatile, but in the position where you were really being taught and shown how to do it, like you were really excelling there.
Yeah, I played in high school. I played tackle, offensive tackle, and then in college I played guard, tackle. I played both, and then. In the NFL, I projected more as like a guard center, and so because it's just tackles are normally bigger in the NFL, and like for a high school, I'm like a big kid, so yeah, you could play tackle. But then college, it's like they kind of like guys in that position at like 6'4" and above, 6'5", and I was like 6'3" or so that's more suited to like guard center, and
That is
so that's what I
very
played.
specific.
Yeah, it's
like within just a couple inches.
Yeah, it is, and it doesn't always, like, there's guys who are different. You know, there's always guys who play the position who might be shorter, or like who are playing guard, but they're like 6'7". You know, there's always the kind of like anomalies, but
Wow.
There's like a prototype at each position. You know, like kind of an outline of what you're looking for, and the tackles are normally a taller guy. A guard is normally like a bigger dude, but a little shorter and like lower center of gravity, like heavy set, like stockier. You know, and center's the same, but like very quick. So yeah.
Will you talk to me just a little bit about the pressure of size? I know the very first time that I saw you, I was feeling very tiny next to you. I'm a short girl. I'm only 5'1", and I was wondering about size. And you were talking about, like, well, at least now I have control over my size. When I was playing, I just had to be big all the time. And I thought that's fascinating to have kind of your job that's dictating so much of how you live your life. Yeah,
it is. It's not just on the field or in the meeting room. It's every part of your life is kind of dedicated to the sport and the job. And yeah, it was since I got into college. Like I probably graduated high school around 260.
Okay.
You know, I was maybe 6'3", 260 as a senior, and I got into college. And they're like, yeah, you need to put on weight. You need to be 300 pounds. Wow. And so like it was
40 pounds.
Yeah, as soon as I got there, I was just like eating everything I could. You know, all the time, and so it happens with most offensive linemen who get to college. It's like you put on a lot of weight early that's not great. You know, you just need to. They're like, I need to get bigger, and so you just keep eating and lifting and running.
Wow.
And yeah, and then you kind of, as you get older, you kind of like maybe your BMI like evens out a little more. You drop some body fat, you add some muscle from training for longer periods of time, and that's when your play starts to improve because of that too. But yeah, it was like I didn't have a choice. You know, I had to be over 300 pounds.
Wow. And
it was not very enjoyable at a lot of times. You know, I was like, I really wish I could be like 250. You know, like that's where my body would rather be at. And yeah, so it was just a really like you said, it's kind of all consuming. Like everything goes towards your job in your life.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you had, or you could have used more guidance in that process?
Yeah.
Because you were saying that maybe you went about it in a difficult way, but was there a better way?
Yeah, there definitely was. Like there's a lot of pressure when you first get to college, and they like, because if a school gives you a scholarship, they can't take it away really, like unless you mess up like off the field or
okay.
You know, something like that. So the coaches are like on your ass about getting better, like learning the playbook, getting bigger. Mm-hmm. And so as an 18-year-old kid, the first time away from home, you're like, well, I just need to eat. I just need to do better. And I wish it was like more of, it would be great if it was a little more of like a little more welcoming and a little less like intimidating, I think, coming into college. Like if it was more of like, hey, like, you know, we are going to develop you. It's going to take some time. Like, you need to get on it. Like, yeah, we're not going to let you sit around and be lazy about it, you know, but like, we're also not going to like pressure you to the point of like overeating and being, you know, sloppy, like 25% body fat, you know, like it. So I think it was, if they could like maybe just take a little more time with kids and then teach them, you know, how to train properly, how to eat properly and grow properly, that would be way more beneficial in the long run, I think.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that also kind of speaks to looking at percentages. I mean, our podcast is called The Game 90-10.
Yeah.
So kind of, I feel like even in that answer, you're speaking to how much of it was a mental understanding of where you're coming from and how you're moving into this process.
Yeah.
I mean, was there like an expectation you already understood how to do this healthfully without some guidance? But I'm just asking, like, did you have physical and mental support in both? Was there any kind of concentration or conversations about it at that stage when you're just getting into college football?
You know, they're from your coaches, it's more like, I wouldn't necessarily call it support. It's more like pressure. Like, It's like, you need to be this big, and you need to learn the playbook, and you need to, and like if you're on the field making mistakes, like you just get there and like you're trying to learn the playbook, and like your coach is already on your ass, like screaming at you, like, why are you messing up, blah blah blah. Like, and it's kind of like it's pressure, and it's pretty stressful, you know, and you have a lot of doubt in that stage. I think almost there are guys who are extremely talented who come in, but it's an adjustment. Like, it's a very big change from high school to college. I'd say even bigger than from college to the NFL.
Wow.
The change from high school to college is much more drastic than even the college to the NFL.
Okay.
And it's like it's more like pressure, and it's kind of. Yeah, the support is not really the term I'd use for it.
That's exactly what I was curious about, because not everybody can rise to such pressured situations, and I'm not sure if they just fall away or if they're looking for support. So, who do they look to?
Yeah. So that's kind of it's definitely that's what I was trying. I kind of lost my train of thought there. Sorry about that. But it's like the coaches are pressuring you, and it's kind of the thought is like, we're going to break you down and then build you up.
Okay.
So it's like
boot camp.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like it's a very mental game at that point. They're trying to pressure you and to see if you'll quit, because like I said, they can't take a scholarship away. So they want to know if like the kids are really there to get to like are dedicated and will work through pressure and hard times and doubt like am I good enough to do this, like should I be here, you know, and then you kind of really at the end of my freshman year, like going into sophomore year, you learn the system, you're there, you're comfortable, like you have a much better group of friends, like you guys have been together for a while, you know, and everything kind of starts to improve from there. So it's like the beginning can be very rough, but it's supposed to be that way. Yeah, I'd say
so. If you were going to run a program, would you see the logic in it? I mean, even though it was hell to go through it, like you've done it, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to break them down and build them up because you're building commitment. Yeah,
I definitely I think you need that, because you have kids coming in who are 18 years old and away from home for the first time in college, and it's like. You know, if they don't have some kind of structure or discipline or consequences, like they might just run wild too. So you have to have that side of it, but I think there's definitely ways to go about it with a little bit more support, and not just like, you better get this right, or you know, you're out of here, or something like that. You know, Did
any of your coaches or teammates talk about it? This is really difficult. I don't know if I have another 6 months in me, etc.
Oh yeah. So like there was And so I guess to answer your other question, who I would go to for support would definitely be the older players at that time. So they really kind of understand, like, hey, I know coach is on your ass, he's being a dick. Like I went through the same thing, like, but I'm here now and I'm good. Like you can make it through it too. So you kind of, the older guys really help you through that process. They're more your friend in it than the coach, but at the same time, there's still like pressure from them. Like if you're not handling your stuff, if you're not, you know, if you're out drinking every night, if you're not learning your plays and you keep making mistakes, like you're gonna have a rep as like as a player who's not very good, or not a guy somebody wants to play with. So like they're there to help you, but at the same time that's more like a big brother relationship. I feel like the coach is more of like a authoritarian, like putting pressure on you. But yeah, that's definitely, I think. What was it? I've kind of...
No, you're perfect. This is exactly what I was curious about. Yeah. Like, who would you go to? What kind of support would you receive? And I like that the feedback was very honest. Yeah. That you have a trust that you're building up. And sometimes that's okay for all the team to be uniting against coach. Like, I think they're okay with that. Yeah. That it's like, you can rely on each other, but I'm going to bring you back to the line. Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. Were there any conversations about sports psychology at that time? It wasn't that long ago, but I realized that this as a topic is really exploding. Yeah, I didn't really know much about it as a younger player in college, but by the time I was like a junior, senior, we had, I think we had a couple guys in our facility, one guy in our facility who was a sports psychologist who you could go to kind of just do, you know, meetings and just help you with the mental side of the game, to prepare for, you know, your season, to prepare for the preseason, to prepare for a game that week, or to prepare for moving on to the next level, like any kind of stuff like that. So there was some of those resources. Yeah. And they didn't really run like team. I mean, your team was probably really huge. Yeah. It was. I want to say around college is maybe 120 guys or 130 guys like total on the football team. Yeah.
And so that's big. And it was more of like, it wasn't like hey, you're going to this sports psychology meeting. It was like, if you want to use this, if you want to come meet up with him. And he would come in the locker room after practice and like talk to guys, and so he had a very good relationship with everybody. And the older players recognized like, hey, this is something that can help me improve.
Nice.
And I took advantage of it as an older player. As a younger player, you're still trying to just like get your feet on the ground, So it's
Sure. And so you didn't. I feel like you've already answered this, but there wasn't really a stigma to go like you would to go talk to them.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was like if you're doing that, like. It was almost like a better thing. It's like, oh, you're taking care of your shit.
You're going the extra mile.
Exactly. Yeah, you're on it. Like you're taking care of your business. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So you realized your career was getting to the next level. You left college ball, and then you're in the NFL.
Yeah. So that was I really had a big like moment. I think after my junior season, I had started every game. I really felt I should have started as a sophomore too, but there's a lot of politics and stuff that comes into play. There are politics in college, way more in the NFL, a little less in college. But so I started every game at a left guard as a junior, left guard or right guard. I think I played a little bit of both. And then as a senior, I was going to be playing right guard, which is like the position I was most comfortable at the time. And I was like, I want to be first team all conference. Like I have a shot. And I had at that point. Before my senior season, I had started getting some calls from some agents, like to represent you at the next level. So I kind of had an idea, like, oh shit, I have a real shot at this. And so that like really I didn't drink for that entire year, like my whole senior year, and then after too when I was doing combine prep. But when I was younger in college, I definitely like I'd go out and have some drinks on the weekend, or we had a big win and go celebrate, but my senior season, I realized I had an opportunity to play in the NFL, which was a dream of mine since I was a kid. And I was like, I'm not, you really only have one shot at that in your life. So I'm not going to, I don't want to look back and go, what if? Like, what if I didn't drink? What if I drank less? What if I studied more? What if I that? So I wanted to do everything I possibly could to have the best chance of making it.
That's really powerful to have that realization at the time and not just living in regret.
Yes,
Love
absolutely.
It. So much respect for that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really, it was so going into my senior year after my junior season, the spring semester, I was like this, I got to get serious about this. So I did everything I could, like extra physical therapy, stretching sessions, extra like accessory work after a workout, studying more, watching more film, understanding like all the aspects of my playbook. I tried to look at every part of my game, like look at everything that I was doing and see where I could improve, how I could be better.
Wow. I love that drive. It's really what draws me to this, just this pinnacle of being the best that you can be, and realizing like there's so much potential you can just unlock if you keep working at it and don't get lazy. And then it's kind of like a winner's curse. Like it's going so well and you get a little lazy, and then somebody else is right behind you, like taking you over. I
was just going to say that it's hard to maintain that focus and that drive, and it's that's why I think athletes in every sport who are great for a long period of time, that's why they kind of understand like that's special, because you could do it for 1 year, and then you're like, wow, that was really tough. I need a break, and you have your off season, and then like before you know it, it's starting to ramp up for the next season, and you're like, man, I gotta do all this again, and you're not as enthusiastic. You're kind of jaded. Like I definitely felt that going from my rookie year in the NFL to my second year. And it's really hard to maintain that level of focus and commitment. And it's so.
How did you do it?
Yeah, so I struggled. There was going into my rookie year, I felt like I was really well prepared. Even though I didn't get drafted, I wanted to get drafted. I was not drafted, which was I thought was a huge mistake in my opinion. I saw guys who were drafted, and I was like, I'm better than that person. I know I'm a better player than them. Yeah. And I watched, like you kind of follow everybody's career a little bit when you come in together.
Sure.
And I watched me stay in the league a little longer than some of those other guys who were drafted before me, or, what people thought they had more talent or ability, and I stayed around longer. So I knew that was like some validation, I guess you could say, like maybe a little bit of ego there, but So my rookie year, I had coming in undrafted, you don't really have any expectations. Like they don't think you're going to be around. They think you're going to get cut in training camp. They think you're only going to be there for like a month. So, I kind of used that as motivation. I was like, these guys, everyone in the league fucked up. Sorry if I don't know about cursing, but like everyone fucked up. I'm better than these dudes. I'm better. There's guys on the team right now that I know I can play better than, and like, it's very intimidating coming in the NFL at first because you look at how guys are playing, and even dudes who aren't starters, you're like, well, that guy's good. Like I need to step my game up. And that period was that was probably the most improvement I ever made in my career as a football player.
It sounds like your awareness was very sharp. That you were looking around at what other people were doing, at maybe like skating by on ego and whatever I was picked earlier or first or whatever, and then watching them and seeing if they're sloppy and realize I have something that is a better strength. And I think that's really important to recognize a strength that you bring and to double down on that strength because this is the toolbox that I have and I'm going to use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like your awareness was very sharp.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was going into that, and a lot of how you learn in the NFL is you watch the older guys. Like you learn like that in college, but coaches are going to be a little more hands-on in helping you learn the material. In the NFL, it's like, hey, you're a grown man. Like you're going to learn this or you're not. If you're not studying your playbook like for a couple hours after every practice and watching the film of practice, watching the clips or the periods that you didn't get to with your coach, then you're not going to be around very long. It's kind of like for them, it's like a weeding out. It's a weeding out process, obviously, but it's like the strong will survive.
Sure.
They don't do any. They're not very hands-on when it comes to that. It's like if you're not putting in the effort on your own as a grown man, then you're not going to be here. Like
Well, and it also sounds like your professionalism precedes you.
There's like a saying around the league, like be a pro, or like this guy taught me how to be a pro. And that's exactly what the coaches would talk about it. When they're trying to build a culture in a team, it was like be a professional in everything you do. Like if you have a meeting, get there early. If you have physical therapy or like treatment in the morning, get there early. Like don't be late to anything, and if you have to be somewhere, be there on time and ready to go. And it's everything in that like you take care of that stuff off the field and the small things in that way, and you watch the bigger things start to align too. And so it's a very that's something I still use today. Like if you're gonna do something, like be a professional in what you're doing. Like take attention to detail, and if you sign your name to do something or say I'm going to do this, then you commit fully. Like you're a professional.
So that's what Miami got in 2013.
Yeah.
What was that like? Signed as free agent.
It was crazy. So we touched on that a little bit. They don't expect you to be around, and you definitely use that as motivation. I wanted to prove everybody wrong, and I really used a lot of where I grew up in Oceanside, and it's not the nicest place. It's pretty gritty, but like you can't be afraid of that. And I used a lot of that mentality going into the league. I was like, I don't care if I have to fight with a 9-year vet in practice. Like I don't care if I'm going against a guy who's more experienced or stronger. Like I'm gonna throw everything I got at it every play, and I started to stand out because of that. I would go against veterans, and one-on-ones is an imitation of an offensive lineman and defensive lineman on a pass play. And so you line up, there's like a guard and a 3 technique, a defensive tackle, and they have a fake snap count, and then he pass rushes and you try to block him, and there's like a little dot back here for the quarterback, and it's like full go, like it's live. And it's a very important drill that coaches watch because it's as real as it's as close to being the real thing as it's going to get on the practice field. And so I would go against veterans in that drill, and I felt pass protection was a strength of mine, and I did well. I would beat them a lot. So that and then you just kind of like the mentality, you kind of feel the mentality shift from like this guy's just some free agent, we don't know who he is, to like, hey, this guy's doing well. Like your coach kind of takes a little more interest in you, like drops drops a little compliment in your ear, like, hey, you know you're doing good, right? Like, yeah, don't fuck it up. Like, just keep going. And that type of stuff, like, that motivates you to the nth degree. Like, that for me was like, I'm gonna, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, I knew I was right. It's very validating. Like, I knew I was right. I know I'm better than these guys. Like, I'm gonna keep proving it. And yeah, that was a very big part of it.
Sweet rewards.
Yeah, exactly. Which is it's so weird to think of that, but like just a coach or like an authoritarian, someone who's in that kind of position, just a very small compliment like that can go.
Well, I
miles.
get what you're saying, though,
Yeah.
when you're talking about hundreds of people,
Yep.
105, 120, 160,
Yeah.
to say, like, that person had eyes on me.
Yeah.
I totally get that. That's
Exactly.
really validating. 'Cause,
Exactly.
you know, with the logistics of what they're doing is,
It's insane. It's insane.
it's quite a lot.
They don't, like, especially in the season, coaches, I don't think I'd ever want to be a coach at the NFL level or the college level football coach.
I was curious about that. You beat me to my question.
Yeah, the hours that they work in the NFL is like the guy in the season, like they don't really see their families. Like a lot of them just sleep in the facility, like at the
Wow.
office. They have a bed in their room in their office,
Wow.
and they don't like. Yeah, it's.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I feel like knowing that is kind of helpful when you're looking at it from a player's perspective
Mm-hmm.
to say, how committed is that person? Am I going to come here and perform for them?
Oh.
Like knowing how much they've given their all.
Absolutely.
It makes a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say it's even more so like they make sure you know that they're committed,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to, like, if they think anyone is, if you think you're half-assing anything, you're not going to be around long.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, and that's the thing is people don't realize, like, so in camp in the NFL, you start off with around 100, like 90 guys maybe, and 100 guys before you head into your training camp, which is really like a 6-week period from the end of July to the beginning of September. And it's the most grueling training you go through all year because you're up at 6 a.m. and you don't get back to the hotel or wherever you're staying till like 9:30, 10 p.m. And that's every day. And then you maybe have one day off a week. And then there's preseason games in there. So like it's very, very grueling and a physical test, but a mental and emotional test as well, because the roster is cut down from 90 to 53 during that period. So almost half of the people that are there during that time are going to be gone.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the 53-man roster, and then there's a 10-player practice squad, which I was on the practice squad my rookie year. I started on practice squad, and then I ended up starting the last 7 games of my rookie season. So that was like a very big jump. You don't see that too often. It doesn't happen very often in the NFL, but yeah, and then so that process of that cut, and then that training camp period is like that's the most stressful time of the year.
Yeah, I was just really curious about how do you tolerate that stuff? Is it buttoned down, or are people talking? Or is it zero complaints, or it's like, hey, we're back to the hotel? It's probably just sleep. But
Oh yeah. It's definitely.
I want to know, how do you process all of that? Because it's a lot.
It is a lot, and there's guys handle it differently. You know, there's everyone starts to bitch in like the end of the training camp. Everyone's like, man, like this shit is like, you know, you're hot, you're tired, probably haven't been getting as much sleep as you should for as much how hard the training is. You know, there's a lot of fights during that time in practice. Like guys, you know, you get on each other's nerves. Everyone's tired, everyone's pissed off. So there's fights start to happen more.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you deal with it. How I dealt with it was the cut was something that I didn't even think about. I was like, I can't worry about that because that's going to throw me off on everything else. If I'm worried about, like, am I going to be here? Am I going to have a job? Like, then that just adds so much pressure to everything else, I think, that if you're
it's kind of a self-sabotage, too.
Exactly. If you're thinking that way in, like, say you have a bad play in practice, you're like, oh, shit, like, I'm going to get cut. Oh, no. And then everything just starts to roll downhill. Like, you can't think about it that way. So I would kind of block that out. I wouldn't worry about it. And I would just think about, I had a coach tell me this, and it was my first coach in the NFL, I think, was also another coach who was like one of the best coaches I ever had, and had a great relationship with him, and he was a great mentor of mine. And he was like, you don't have to be great every day, like, and you don't have to make leaps and bounds in improvements in your game every day. he's like, just marginal improvements every day. Maybe get a little bit better at this. Maybe have a little better block on this play. Maybe have, you make a better call in pass protection, something like that. And there's going to be days that aren't as good, and there's going to be days that are better. But like, if you just have those little marginal improvements every day, you kind of see like a graph of your chart of your play going, there's ups and downs like this, but overall it's going up, right? So, and if you just focus on the little things every day, just the small goals in front of you, the other stuff kind of takes care of itself.
Well, that certainly aligns with what you had already been doing. It's like he was coming back with like, yes, this makes sense to me. This is the path I'm on.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Was that your key influencer, or do you feel like that there's someone else, or I don't know if there's like one mentor that stands out in your mind, or if there are several that over different periods of your life?
So my high school coach, Coach Girardi, he was definitely a big one. And then my coach, my rookie year in the NFL, Coach Jim Turner. He was also, it's funny because I had both, I tell you, I'm passionate about the military. Both my parents were in the Marines. He was an ex-Marine and then got into coaching and coached in college and then made it to the NFL, made it to, the elite level of the NFL. But he was a very, he was a simple, I never had a coach like relate the material to me in as well of a way that he did. And I learned the most about football during that period, I think. And I think he kind of took the approach from the military of breaking down everything into the most simple, basic level, so you can understand it, and then take that and relate it to yourself and understand it how you understand it. Not in anyone else's terms, but in yours that make the most sense to you. And he was definitely somebody. And like what he taught me about basic plays in football, I still remember, and I still, like, if I'm around the game or if I'm around younger athletes and I'm like helping them with something, I tell them those things as well, because you could take, especially for like play specific, you can take those kind of fundamentals and apply them to any play, and they'll get you like halfway, they'll get you like 80% of the way to where you need to be.
I love that. I love what that says about your mindset. And at that time, as a learner, as someone who's absorbing information and ready to get better, because you had already been playing football for a number of years, and to say that this, in the rookie year, this coach taught you the most about football that you had ever learned, like that really says a lot. I feel like when you get to that level, you might feel like, I know, I've been playing this 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
What are you going to tell me that I haven't already heard from someone else? But to say that you could take this and break it down into a way that's super resonant, in a way that you continue to share it. Huge. Big. That's really cool.
Very big. Yeah, it was that was great for me. And there's different I'd say, you've been playing football for a long time by the time you get to the league, but it's like there's like a class, there's algebra 1, 2, and 3. It's like you get to the NFL, it's algebra 3. Like you've been learning this other stuff, but like here's the next level. Here's the next like order of magnitude. I don't know, like the more detail that you put in, there's the tiniest little details of every play are stressed. And and it's like that can be overwhelming for some people, or you grasp it and then you become like a much better player mentally, as far as football IQ, like understanding the game. Yeah, it's very good.
Well, this one might be uncomfortable, I'm not sure, but what exposure or did you see about like performance enhancing drugs? Was that something that was ever going on in college, or? So
not really in college. Like I think you're like too broke to afford anything like that.
Okay.
And then in the NFL, like there's like whispers of it. Guys are like, because you get so burnt out, and you're like, I wish I had steroids. Like I wish I could take steroids right now.
Edge.
Yeah, exactly. Like so my legs didn't feel like my knees, like, or it didn't feel like the muscles in my legs are jello and I can't move. Like it. But there's no way that you could use them. Like it. Unless, I don't know, like maybe some guys had like a crazy doctor or something that they found a way around the tests, but you're tested randomly throughout the year as many times as they want, whenever they want, wherever you are. They will they will come and test you for steroids, and it's blood and urine. So there's any kind of thing that you're on, they're going to catch it. And then street drugs is a different story. There's there's one test a year. A lot of people don't know this. There's one test a year in the NFL, and you kind of know the time frame. Mm-hmm. So it's like they're basically telling you, like, if you're gonna smoke weed, if you're gonna do whatever, just stop for this. Like just don't fucking do it for like this month, these couple months. Mm-hmm. And like then there's guys who just can't get that. Like they just can't stop for whatever reason, and they fail. It's like how you knew when it was gonna be. Mm-hmm. And like I'd say the NFL is like, they now have come out and said that they're looking into like cannabis and CBD as like recovery methods or pain management, you know, mm-hmm. because the alternative is painkillers, and extremely like things like Toradol, and it's the strongest non-narcotic painkiller there is, but it's also extremely hard on your kidneys and liver. And guys, you get a shot of it. I would get shots of it before games, but then there's also dudes who are playing through injuries who they'll take it orally, and that's even worse. Like that's even harder. But they said they've looked into and then on top of that, like if you have an injury in a game or you're banged up, like here's some pain, here's some like Percocet, or here's some Vicodin, you know. Mm-hmm. And that they've started to look into cannabis and CBD, and I would say when I was playing, like, I don't know, 75-80% of guys already used that as their, like, they wouldn't take the painkillers. They would take the Toradol because that got you through stuff, but they wouldn't take the other narcotic painkillers, and they would just smoke as a way to deal with inflammation, as a way to deal with like concussions or brain, whatever you had going on there, and also just to relax after games and to like recover. Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit of a candid, like, you probably won't hear that from these people,
you did definitely tell me things that I didn't know about the situation and how it's handled. And I didn't know about the testing so often, anytime, anywhere, like that. They all are always checking.
They're on it. Yeah, they're on it. So like and that's what you see if a guy fails for a PED, then like maybe he was trying to get around something, or maybe he took something that he didn't know. That's like genuinely happens.
Sure.
But it they're gonna find it.
So it sounds like you did experience some injuries. What did you go through?
In college I broke my right foot twice, so I had surgery on that.
Wow.
Yeah, that sucks. And then I had
in play.
In practice I broke it, and then the second time was just like a fluke. I'd done all my therapy. I'd done wore my boot. I was full go. I wasn't doing I was healthy and cleared for everything, and we were just doing like a conditioning session in the morning, in the spring. And I was running over some bags, and I like planted my foot down, and it just blew up again. Like,
and you knew it.
Yeah, it like popped, like I felt it, and then I tried to like put weight on it after that, and it was like nope. Oh. Yeah, and so I had to get.
So same injury, same foot,
same bone. The one that had the surgery that had pins in it already, it broke again, which was crazy. And then I had to do. They just casted it, and I had to just recover again from that. And then I subluxed both my shoulders, so like where they dislocate and come back in really quick, and then I tore my...
And that can happen repeatedly after the fact.
Yeah, then your joints kind of like weakened after, which sucks. And then I tore my UCL in my elbow, this right here, which is like more like you see like pitchers in baseball, like a Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
And that got messed up, and then...
And you did have that surgically repaired?
I didn't. They were just like, we're just gonna let it scar over. So I didn't have surgery. I probably should have, but they're like, yeah, go. It's
well, you would know if it's affecting you right now.
Yeah. I mean, I have some. I'm okay. So I think that maybe it just worked out good. But that happened. I had a couple concussions I had 2 concussions in college. I, broken hands, fingers. That happened pretty frequently. But those weren't things that really held you out. Like you would kind of just. I dislocated numerous, like I have some that are like this finger won't go straight, like this one's, the pinky's kind of messed up, so, but you just tape them together and keep going, and then if you break your hand, like they'll cast it, you might miss some of that practice, but they'll cast it and then you just play with a cast. You practice with a cast.
You're very clearly explaining why someone would want to be on a painkiller, because they're like, just tape it, go play.
Yeah, exactly, just tape it up, go play.
Personally, I find pain distracting. I don't know if I could be my most focused, best self and have my head in the right space to go play.
Absolutely, yeah, it 100% is that way. Yeah, and so then I had in the NFL, I had another pretty serious concussion. I tore my MCL in my right knee.
Oh.
I had some other shoulder issues like grade 3 AC sprain. I had, what else did I have? There's been a lot. I have my back is super messed up. Like there was no acute injury, but my left hip, I have a torn labrum and like bone spurs around the joint, and then I have I'm herniated, like my L4, L5, S1 are herniated. So
Wow.
yeah, those are all just from overuse and
but you keep a really serious workout regimen, probably for both your mobility and your strength. But is it also to answer like injury, like staying in your best shape is going to keep you okay? Because it doesn't seem like the injuries have. Maybe it's because you had great physical therapy that's brought you back to full range of motion.
No, I don't have like my mobility isn't great, and it's something I need to work on every day. I think that's why I work out and do that still in functional stuff, but also just lifting pretty heavy. It's just something I enjoy, and I think really what happens is when you stop moving is when all of that stuff really starts to like come out and compound, because I learned that like movement's really medicine. Like you'll feel better if you stay active. Like it's easier to stay in shape than get in shape. So if you just like stop working out and just eat garbage every day, you're gonna feel way worse, like mentally and physically. So working out is something that I'm kind of addicted to, I think. And it also at this point it's kind of like a little bit of a release. Like I still have that physical like challenging release in my day that I used to have from football. It's not the same, but it's still something that I like and I enjoy. So I just I feel way more accomplished after I work out in the day. I just feel like I did something today good. Like I pushed myself. It's
good.
Like that.
Well, and with that number of injuries that might creep up on you, that's good that you're staying really fit, feeling good.
Definitely.
Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to go from Dolphins to the Broncos?
Yeah, that was a crazy transition because so I was with Miami, and it was my third year there, and I had been I explained to you the cuts earlier in after camp, and like you can make the 53-man roster, like you can make the final cut in camp, but then any time throughout the season the team can cut you if they feel like it. So you can be fired anytime for any reason.
That's rough.
At any time. Yeah, exactly. And so I was on the 53 that year. I was released once because they had a player come off of temporary IR, Jay Ajayi, he's a really good running back, but he came off a temporary IR, so that takes a roster spot. So I was released for the weekend and then signed back to the roster on Monday. So like they like went to an away game, and like I showed up to work and they're like, hey, we need you to come upstairs. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, like, and they explained like, hey, look, Jay came off IR, we need a roster spot. We're gonna sign you back on Monday. And then it's like the way that the pay works in the NFL is you're paid 17 weeks out of the year. You get paid by game. Okay. And then. So if you can be, like I said, you can be cut any time. So if you make it past Wednesday in a week, you still get paid for that week. So like they're like, yeah, we're gonna sign you back on Monday and we're gonna go on the game in a way. I'm like, okay. And so I just like was at home for the weekend with my daughter. My daughter was like a newborn at the time. Oh. So like I just stayed home. Came back. Yeah, stayed home. Came back, and I was like, all right, well, I'm back to business as usual. And then that happened one more time. But what happens when you're released in the season like that is you go through something called a waiver wire, and it's a 24-hour period where any team in the NFL has the right to pick up your contract. So they released me again, and I like at this point I was like, I hope somebody claims me, because like I don't want to. They keep cutting me and releasing me. Like I don't want to. Obviously, like they don't give a shit about me. So like I don't want to be here, but it was hard. I got signed. I got picked up by Denver, and I was very excited. My agent called me. He's like, "You got signed. You're going to Denver." Like, and Miami was not doing very well that year, and Denver was doing like really good that year. So he's all, "You're going to the outhouse to the penthouse, man." Like, you like that's all. I don't know. Fuck yeah! Like I was stoked. And then I like turn around, and Alex, my partner at the time, Landon, I think, was 3 months old, my daughter, and she's like, I'm so happy for you, and then she starts crying, because she's like, I have a 3-month-old kid, and you're leaving me. I had to get on a flight that night to go to
Wow.
Denver. Yeah, so, and she's like, you're leaving, and I was like obviously really excited, but I was also like sad at the same time because
life's happening.
Yeah, right. Like that situation's just rough, and I feel sad. I feel bad leaving her just alone with a newborn, and so we figured it out though. So and her mom came and stayed with her, and then she moved back to San Diego after a couple weeks, and then she came up to stay with me in Denver and brought the baby. So like we figured all that out, which was good. But then
that's rough. I can see that you had to put your job first.
Yeah.
Like if I don't do this thing right now, they're not going to just hang around for a month while I figure out my life.
No, yeah, and that's how it is, and like with everything else too. And if like we talked about the weight, like everything in your life, that the job is a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I flew out that night. I was in Miami I think it happened on a Tuesday. I was in Miami on Tuesday, got signed to Denver, flew out that night, and then at 6 a.m. I was at their facility in Denver, and then I practiced that day with them. And so like you go into a new system.
Wow.
Yeah. You go into a new system overnight, and like you have to learn the whole new playbook on the fly, like just as fast as you possibly can.
And you're the only person who's coming in brand new. You're not like with a whole group of...
Nope. You're usually the only one, but that happened, that stuff like that happens kind of throughout the season, but it's not in a group. Like you're by yourself.
Okay.
And they released another dude who was on their team for me.
Wow.
So like I came into the O-line room, and like the guy who had been there, like they're like, they like, obviously that guy had been around there for a while, and they liked him, and they're friends with him, and they like, he's released, and then now there's this new guy. And so you kind of have to like, it's an adjustment to like
sure
fit into the room, and like everyone kind of gets, it takes, it's always awkward in the beginning, and then it kind of after like a week or 2-3 weeks, you kind of just fall in, and guys, you gel with everybody. But yeah, that's a strange part, and that's a difficult part. And then getting adjusted to a new coach, a new playbook, all like on the fly. And it's kind of a similar thing as when you're a freshman in college. Like I came in, and like if I made a mistake in practice, my coach was still like flipping out, like, why didn't you know? I'm like, I've been here for 2 days, dude. Like, what are you saying?
No excuses.
Yeah, exactly. No excuses. Yeah. So like, but that you're kind of just like, I've been here for 2 days. Like, I don't, what do you want to do? What do you want me to do about it? But yeah, so that was a big transition. It was strange. It was hard, but it worked out great in the end. I gelled well with the guys in Denver. We ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. So
please tell me about that. How does that conversation happen? Like ramping up, because you don't know. It all is predicated on, like you said, the daily commitment, playing your best all the time, bringing it in practice, bringing it in competition day.
Yeah.
At what point does the Super Bowl conversation, like, guys? Yeah. This is happening.
So it kind of, you're doing well throughout the season, because we had like over 10 wins. I think, we were around, I don't remember what our record was at the point when I got there. But then after I got there, we won like 3 in a row. So like we were doing really well. We were on a streak. And then at that point, like, okay, they have the playoff standings, and like they show them everywhere. So like, like we have a chance to win the division, and then get the first seed, which is a first round bye in the playoffs, which is huge. Like you can rest up and get ready while the other teams are still playing.
Sure.
So like we knew at the end of the season, we know you have a shot for that, and so you're playing really hard to get that spot. And we ended up, there was like we dropped a game late, and then we dropped a conference game to the Raiders, I think, in the second to last week of the season. And we were, at that point, it was kind of like people were like, well, we don't know, they're going to drop in the stand, like we don't know what seed they are, blah, blah, this and that. And then, then we won our last game, and then we ended up, because of how the other things shook out in the AFC that year, we ended up the first seed with the first round bye. So that was like really big. And that's at the point where the teams, like the goal in the beginning of the year when you come in, the coach always says, our goal this year is to win the Super Bowl. Like bottom line is to go to the Super Bowl. every coach on every team says that.
Which means every game is a critical game.
Every game's very critical. Yeah. So it and losses aren't received really well. Yeah. So like. Yeah.
I feel like that's the understatement of the year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Just quietly, losses aren't received very well.
Yeah, losses aren't received very well. Yeah.
Blood, pain, and tears.
Exactly. And yeah, so at that point, it's like we really have a shot to go all the way. Like that's everybody knew. The coaches said it. Like everyone knew. And Brock Osweiler was our quarterback at the time because Manning had been hurt. He had a neck surgery, and then he had like plantar fascia or something like that. He had something with his foot. That was his last year, so he was banged up. But he, we knew that was a huge motivating factor too for everybody. Was like, this is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. He's a Hall of Famer, and this is like his last shot. So like if you don't have if you need some motivation, like which you shouldn't, but if you do, like do it for that guy. You know what I mean? Like he was the type of player that made everybody around him better.
Yeah.
Like everybody, you didn't want to drop a pass from Peyton. You didn't want to give up a sack for Peyton. You didn't want to like screw up an assignment. It was just he was that good of a player that his game elevated everybody else's.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah.
Because I, from what you've described of your play and of the mentality that you bring to your play, that you're already that type of person, that I'm taking care of my business. It doesn't matter if people are having an A day or a B day. I'm always going to be bringing my best all the time, even if it's on your second day there.
Yeah, exactly.
That you already, you felt a personal obligation to bring your best. So that's really super intriguing when you're talking about someone who, like, his level of play makes everybody around him want to be a better player.
Yeah.
What did you see in him? I mean, because it's different than just having a legendary status, right?
Yeah, definitely. So it really, like, I think everything kind of, it stems from, everything starts with your play on the field. Like, if you're when he started out as a young quarterback, like people didn't know really who he was, a first round pick potential, but like there's tons of first round picks, and
Sure.
But then his first year wasn't that great, but that's how it is with like almost every quarterback in the NFL. The first year's not that great. That's common, but like then his play over the years like showed that this guy is one of the best to ever play, and so that has to, it deals with talent. Like it has to be, part of that is talent. But then your approach to the game is the other piece. So like there's like the saying like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But then you have someone like that who's extremely talented and gifted and works harder than anybody. And it's like that's when you have that kind of that like special player, like once in a generational type player. And so it starts on the field, and it starts with the talent level and the things that he's able to do and bring to the program. And it's like, if we have a guy like that in that important of a position, like we have to do our jobs everywhere else, because that's such a big piece of it, and he's killing it. Like he's doing such a good job that like we got to step up in other places, like because we can't let him down. Like we don't want to be the reason that Peyton didn't get a Super Bowl in his last year. You don't want to be, like I said. So it starts with that, but then it also starts with and then there's also just the kind of leader that he was. Like I said, he made other people better with his play on the field. But like as the first day I got there, like he came up and introduced himself to me, and I was like starstruck. I'm like, holy shit! Like what's up, man? And he's like, hey, how you doing, man? Like I'm Peyton. Like, and I was like, yeah, I know. Like so he's yeah, so he was also just an extremely good dude, like a very good teammate, a leader, and like a genuine person, like a really, really good guy. So that and all of that together, like that's he's a special player, special guy.
That's awesome. Yeah. And we know it was a fantastic game.
Yes.
No spoiler there. We know that the Broncos won. What was it like that morning heading out, or maybe even the night before? Yeah,
the night before is pretty, I don't want to say it's so that you get to the whole week before the Super Bowl is crazy, because you get to ours was in Levi's Stadium in San Jose, so like Bay Area-ish, and you get there the week before and you practice there, but there's all this stuff surrounding it. There's like media at the practices, there's like media day, there's all the interviews through all the week. There's like an opening night where it's just all media. both teams are there. Everyone's getting interviewed. There's like important players like up on stages getting interviewed, and coaches and stuff like that. And sorry, excuse me. It can be distracting. So like there's all that stuff going on, and and there's some cool stuff too. There's like the team takes a trip place somewhere. Or you do some like fun stuff on the side. You get some like time off to go check out San Francisco or San Jose, which is cool because you can kind of decompress and like take it all in. Like we're at the Super Bowl, and yeah, I think that kind of helps relieve a little stress. And then the night before is a little more. It's like loose, because that day. It's the same as any other kind of game prep. Like I said, there's definitely more distractions, but it's still the same thing you've been doing for the past 18 weeks, or not more than that, because we had our divisional, and then so it's more, it's like whatever 20 weeks or 21 weeks or something like that. I don't you can see it, but and it's the same process you've been going through. It's the same practice on the same day in the week. So you have that structure there. And you're like, we've done this before. Obviously this is the most important game, but it's still another football game.
And you rely on routine.
Exactly. You rely on routine.
Okay.
And you've played so many throughout your life and throughout your career that like it kind of helps make the moment smaller. It helps you deal with the Super Bowl aspect. It's like you just go out there and play. And you just go do what you do, And it was, so the night before was like lax, but then we kind of had a all players meeting before that was a little different. Like we wouldn't normally do that. So
okay.
We had an all players meeting, and we had like Peyton got up, and then the defensive captain DeMarcus Ware, who was like also a Hall of Fame defensive end, and played in the league for many years and was all Pro Bowl, all the accolades. They both got up and kind of gave a little talk, and it was very motivating, but it was at the same time, it was very like kind of what I just said. It was like, hey fellas, like it's a big game, but like it's a big game because we made it a big game. Like let's go out there and do what we do. And if we take care of our business, then we're going to be fine. So it's,
That's great.
Yeah. And then the day before,
because it sounds like a lot of trust is laid out. Like,
definitely.
I'm not worried about you guys. This is like a room full of champions anyway.
That's exactly it. They're like, at that point, the team's chemistry, like everybody knows who they're playing, who they can rely on, who they're playing with, So it's
Sounds emotional. I mean, if you ask me, I feel like if I was in that room, I'd probably be teary.
Yeah, I think DeMarcus actually like teared up a little bit when he was giving his speech. So it was, and then that type of stuff too is also very motivating and like gets you going, So
because everybody is all in.
Yeah, everybody's all in. Exactly. You know how much it means to everyone. And then the day of is just more routine. Wake up, breakfast, meetings. Have your little break. You get dressed and head over to the stadium, and then it's just the same pregame routine. Like you definitely rely on routine a lot, and it's the moment, like when the game starts, you're like, this is a Super Bowl. But then in the game, it's just a game. And then at the end, when like you realize we're winning, like we're gonna win, like then it all like kind of it blows up. It goes crazy. And then that was an amazing experience. That was wild.
Would you say it was the highlight of your career?
Definitely, yeah. It was the highlight of my career, yeah.
I'd be surprised if you didn't say so, but you never know that there could be like some other touchstone moment.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's really special. Yeah, coming off of that, actually, I do want to know, what is the aftermath like after that?
Yeah, so the aftermath is pretty cool. Like it's emotional, but like everyone's on cloud nine because you accomplished the goal that you set out to accomplish. Like coaches are happy, everybody's happy. Everyone knows they can have a break after this too. And there's like the crazy ceremony with the confetti, and everyone's holding the trophy, and then they do they do their speech and they award the trophy and all that stuff. And then you go back in the locker room, and the locker room's kind of just like a party. Like there's like people spraying champagne and like getting dressed and all the photos and stuff like that. And then you head back to the hotel, and they have in the hotel, they just have a whole party like set up for you. They have, whether you win or lose, they still have the party. But
good.
Yeah. It's not as fun when you lose, I've heard. So, yeah.
But I think that there has to be some kind of network for that after the fact, that it's like, we're not just going to send you a way to go.
Yeah.
Like be in a quiet corner.
Also too, like, yeah, so it's in the hotel, and they have, like, they go like all out. Like there was like artists, like famous artists who came and performed, and there's all the people from the organization, like the owner, the owner's wife was the owner. Bolin passed away. He was sick at the time, but yeah, his wife was there. Like everybody from the organization is there, and it's like everyone's getting hammered. Like, so you're seeing your coach, like someone you're not used to like seeing in that type of situation. You might talk about it in the season, like joke around about it, but like you see him like going for it. And you're like, all right, coach, and then all your boys, you and all your boys are partying. And then there's like every floor in the hotel just kind of ended up being like a party too, because people, and they do that. They have that at the hotel because they don't want you to just go out into the city and go nuts and get arrested or something bad. There's always something bad that could happen. So they kind of keep it here. Nobody's driving. Nobody's doing around other people. It's we're all around the team still, so it's safe. And yeah, but it was really, really fun. And then you fly back the next morning, and everybody's still kind of drinking, like on the plane and stuff. So you fly back on the plane, and then we landed in Denver, and there was like, they had a bunch of fire trucks at the airport, like shooting off water, and then everybody gets off and goes back to the facility. And at that point, I was like so tired and spent, I just went home and knocked out for like a long time. And then you wake up the next day, and the next day is a parade. So
wow.
Yeah, so you go and jump on. Like they had a bunch of different. I think they were fire trucks, but they had all kinds of big trucks that like in the whole downtown of Denver just like is shut down. And there's like thousands and thousands of people out.
Because they weren't traveling to San Jose to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. You got to come home and share the joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And like everybody in the city is like out in the streets, like waving stuff out of the window. And you go through the parade on the, on your fire truck, whatever. And then we went down to like City Hall, and then they did another ceremony where they like present the trophy to the city. Mm-hmm. And it was like, there's this like city center in Denver that, there's like City Hall, and then there's like the courthouse or something, like the Capitol, I think. And then it's like, and that's like a couple miles across, but it was all people, like all filled all the way across the whole
thing.
Like, yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts. It was really, really cool. Yeah, it was a memorable experience for sure.
Wow. I love that you can share with me the high of that moment. Yeah. I am curious too, though, if there's kind of like where you come off of that high, and then is there any kind of like particular low, or it's like get back to practice, get back to work?
Yeah, I don't know if it was necessarily a low, because then you kind of have the off season. It's a much shorter off season because you went deep into you went all the way into the postseason. So the next OTAs and the next team functions come up pretty quickly, which I found like that was like hard, because I was like, I'm used to a little more rest and like time away. Oh. And then you come back and it's like, I'm back here already again. Like I needed like another week, but
never really thought about that.
Yeah. But it ends up, and the coaches understand that too. So like we had our OTAs that year were like, he gave us a lot more days off. He was pretty lax with practice. They weren't too crazy. And OTAs they're like organized team functions. It's basically like spring practice. There's no pads, and you just have jerseys and helmets, and you go against each other. It's just in the team playing against each other. And I had a really good OTAs. I was at guard with the ones the whole off season, and then I came back for camp. And then that's when I had a really serious concussion. I ended up going on IR, which is injured reserve, because of it. Yeah. So it was like, that was kind of a low. That was shitty. It wasn't, it didn't really have anything to do with the Super Bowl, but like going from that great season to like coming back and having an injury, that sucked. Yeah, that was different.
Gosh. And you had concussions before that, and you knew that this one was remarkably worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. I developed like what they call post-concussion syndrome from it.
Yeah.
So I had like symptoms for an extended period of time. Mm-hmm. And the team placed me on IR because they knew it was going to be a while before I got busy, which is injured reserve, meaning you're not taking a roster spot, but you're still there, like getting treatment, like working on getting healthy. And that can happen with like surgery or any other kind of injury, any injury you can think of. So it's like it basically means like you're not playing that year.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Well, that's kind of what happened to your friend in Miami too, though, that he was in IR and took your spot and then went to the game, right?
Oh yeah. So that's the thing, is that you can do. There's like one player per team per year that can come off of, that can be on temporary IR, come off and then have a roster spot.
Yeah.
So it's just like a
Well,
stipulation.
but it sounded like you really needed it, though, even if it was other people that were determining that you needed the IR.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was.
were you in agreement with that, or were you a little resentful?
Yeah, I didn't want to go on IR, but I definitely needed to go on IR. Like, it was either that or, so there's like a legal thing in the league where teams would in the past, and some still do, if you have an injury that takes over 3 months, I think, to rehab, they have to place you on IR. But teams will try to release guys when they're injured, like cut them, and say, oh, we're going to give you an injury settlement, and like waive you injured, basically is what it is. And they're technically not allowed to do that because they're firing you because you got hurt. So that's like not, so I was grateful to the organization in Denver that they did right by me and did that, because I feel like maybe in Miami that might not have happened.
Okay.
They had a lot of they had some sketchy things. They did some sketchy things down there. So,
Wow.
Yeah, which is maybe why they weren't. I don't know. It's all of it plays together, but I would say the organization itself in Denver was much better than in Miami.
And did the organization take like hands-on care of your recovery?
Yes. So all of every day I would come in the training room and meet with the head trainer, and then he'd be like, "How you feeling? How's this?" And then you go to, and then I was meeting with a neurologist regularly, and that was also through the team.
Yeah.
And then I was also allowed to get a second opinion just to make sure like everything's okay.
Good.
And so it was definitely hands-on. Yeah.
That's
They take care
important
of
for
it.
your peace of mind too.
Yeah.
That some injuries are more difficult to judge.
Mm-hmm.
Just how is your progress?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But it was I did well. They did well. My care was great. And
And you feel like your personal coping was okay, or was that a tough time?
I dealt with some things through that time, just because of what the injury too. Like I had it was strange. Like I had like really weird mood swings because of the concussion. Like I had some cognitive issues, so
Sure.
I would get upset easily, and then I would, I was pretty different. It was a different person. Even Alex, my she said, she's like, you were definitely a different person. Like you had changed, and she noticed as I got better, that stuff got better too. But
Wow.
and then I kind of felt too like kind of useless at times, because I was like, I'm hurt, I'm not playing, like this has been part of my identity for so long, like what am I doing, and so yeah, I dealt with some stuff through that, and I met with a sports psychologist through that period too, regularly. I met he helped me a lot with that. Yeah. So
Is there any I mean, I don't know if you want to go into specific, but like, was it just the talking that was helpful, or were there particular exercises that were, something that helped you to feel like regain a sense of purpose? Like, what was it that you felt helped pull you through that time?
Yeah, the talking was it was good to just have someone to talk to about like how, and I don't know, because I kind of you never know with the team, so I kind of felt like I couldn't really be like fully honest with with my trainer, because like if you get better on IR, they might also just cut you off of IR. So like you're like,
yeah, but that big decisions are in the balance.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I
so
respect
should
that.
I, like, if I'm feeling better, should I tell them? Like, because then they might just cut me. Like I don't. So like it was good to just kind of have someone who I could talk to and be like, yeah, I feel good today, or yesterday I felt kind of shitty, or like I'm feeling pretty useless right now, or something like that. So that really helped. And then he did give me a lot of exercises, like I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but there was a lot of like meditation that we did that he gave me some pointers with. There was a lot of like we would write things down. I think he would say, write down something you want to practice on, like getting better today, or like hey, write down like you want to be present, try to be present in some aspect of your life today, like fully present. Like, you know, we were playing with Landon, like be fully present with her, or like be present when you're doing, you know, your whatever, doing your rehab or meeting with a neurologist or like working on these things. Like, and so a lot of that stuff really helped, especially the meditation, which is something that I still I still practice today. So.
Wow,
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. Thanks for that share.
Yeah.
Feel like I was in the room. Okay, what did I also want to ask you on here? Because we've covered a lot of good territory, but there are still some more questions. Oh, yeah. I want to know about how much, like, did your coaches have any kind of policy against phones? Or, like, I know some of them say, like, don't do social media. I don't need you, like, making rash comments on Twitter.
Yeah. No, so they just, the only like strict policy they had was no phones in the meeting rooms. So like if you don't bring your phone in the meeting room.
Okay, it's a pretty minimal rule.
Yeah, but like guys still would sometimes and then not turn them off in the meeting, and then phone goes off. And the coaches did not like that. They usually get pretty pissed about that. And then yeah, that was what strict one. But like social media and all this stuff is kind of up to you. You know, they're like, we're not going to tell you how to live your life, you know, outside of the building, you know, other than like don't, you know, do illegal shit. But
yeah,
like, that was up to you, and it did get a lot of guys in trouble. Some guys in trouble, but then there's players who knew how to utilize it really well and like kind of build their own brand as an NFL player, and show like what they're doing, you know, in the season, but also like maybe what their interests are outside of football, and if they had like a foundation, if they had other goals, like so there was a lot of players who were smart and used it to their advantage, like a marketing tool basically.
Oh, I'm sure fans were very excited to get kind of that inside look.
Yep. That's exactly it. It's such a like exclusive kind of brotherhood in the NFL that people always want to know, like, how's this? How does it actually? What's it like in the locker room? What's this? What's that? And social media is a great way to kind of share some of those things. Yeah.
But I know you had just talked really briefly about, you know, so many plays into the season that you get that media chatter, like, oh, they lost to Raiders, they're not going to make it. I mean, does the team talk about those things, or is it? Hush.
It's such a weird. It's like a weird relationship that you have with the media as a player, because it's part of your job. Like at this point, like everyone knows it's necessary. Like you have to be available for the media, and the media wants to talk to you, and like they got a job to do too. You know, they need to write their articles or sell their papers or whatever, you know, they do, make their shows. And,
that's so kind.
Sorry, yeah, like like that's that.
Before you smash a camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you know, and then in the same vein, there's guys who can really use that to their advantage. Like Peyton Manning was a great example of that. He did every like production meeting every week, and he had, you know, interviews. He had great relationships with all the media people, especially from like the big networks and, you know, national, all that stuff. And that's why he had made more money from endorsements than he did playing football. Like his off the field stuff, all the commercials. You know, you see him on TV now still, like every day. So that was he used that to his advantage, and obviously he's like a super smart guy anyway, so he saw the value in it. But yeah, there's when certain reporters, like, you know, get on guys in particular in the media, or they get on the team, or they start talking negatively, there's like a kind of a big, everybody kind of knows in the building that like you don't focus on the outside stuff. Like you don't let that come in. You don't let that come in the building. You come in to interview and all that, but what they're saying out there is something you don't pay attention to. Like you don't read the art, you don't read that, because if you are worried about that, then it could affect you negatively. And different players handle it differently. Maybe some guys read articles. Maybe some guys, you know, fire back at reporters on Twitter or something like that. You know, I don't know, and that might help them. It might motivate them. But yeah, it's kind of like I think the approach to it most of the time is ignore the negative stuff. You know, ignore, because they don't know they're from the outside looking in. They don't know what we're doing in here every day, and they don't know the work that we put in and the culture that we built. So don't let that affect what we're doing.
You're doing such a great job of defending and protecting.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm going to keep needling my way down because my husband had this funny question that he wanted me to ask you. What is trash talk like inside the team?
Oh, inside the team.
Inside the team.
Inside the team, it's great. Like there's like guys are constantly on each other's heads, like messing with each other, and that's part of like the culture, building a culture and chemistry in the locker room. And it's so like if you had a bad play or a couple bad plays in a game, like you'll definitely hear about it from your boys, and they'll be like, "What the fuck was that? Like, what were you doing?" Like, and then when they have a bad play or get got, like you have your chance to get on them. Like, what was that, man? Like,
nice.
So then there's also, this is another like inside trash talk within the team and within certain position groups. Every old line room I was in had a fine board. So like the veterans would run it, the oldest guy in the room usually would run the fine system, and there would be set fines for all kinds of things. Like you missed a block, like an MA in like playing on the field, there were those kind of fines.
Yeah.
But most of it was like guys messing with each other off the field. Like you threw somebody under the bus in the film room, like that's a $20 fine. Or like
wow,
you like talked down to somebody. You like talked down to somebody like you were the shit. Like that's a $50 fine. Like, or, like you didn't come to you missed you missed our dinner on Thursday. Like that's $100 fine. Like you are, all kind or like late to a meeting. Like late would be put them up, and then you could be like sensitive fine. Like you're getting like critiqued or something. You're like, yeah, well this and that. And I'm like, oh, he's sensitive. No, put him up. So and you're keeping track of all of this. And like the veterans will find any excuse. Like they run away. They'll find any excuse to find people, and then the rookies especially are getting. If it's a high draft pick and there's a rookie, like they're on him bad. They're trying to get. They're probably getting at least like $10K out of him in fines.
Oh,
at least.
That feels like a triple threat of accountability.
Yeah.
Because we all have different things we respond to, whether it was the fact that someone noticed, whether it was a monetary value.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
It is. Yeah.
That's whatever's the language that makes you respond to a negative reinforcement, you're covered.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. Very true. Yeah, all different languages.
I love how effective it sounds.
It's great. It's great. And then like
it's like this.
Yeah, exactly. And then like you're looking for reasons to like mess with other guys and find them. And then there could be like. You could have like a credit, like something taken off your fine, like we called it street cred. Like you had some street cred.
Nice.
Like so take $15 off your fines for the year. Like you had like maybe you like pancake blocked a guy, or like maybe you helped you picked your buddy up so he wasn't late or something.
But you can't write out your own street cred.
No,
somebody else has to do it.
Someone else has to do it for you. You can't give yourself street cred because then it's not street cred. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah. So
was that every team did that?
Yep.
I mean, that was like in college you did that?
No, college we didn't do it because we didn't have any money.
Oh, okay.
The NFL,
of course.
Yeah,
it's like for hamburgers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, I need to get top ramen so I can. That was good. And then at the end of the year, all the fine money piled up. Everybody paid their fines and put it together, and that went to the trip. Like we took a yearly trip at the end of the year, and like all together as a group. And so that money went to paying for the trip, or do whatever. If it was Vegas, like gambling in Vegas with the fine money, or like going to this is gonna sound really like buying the private jet to like fly down to Dominican Republic.
That's a lot of fines.
It's really So like it's gonna.
You're a bad team.
Yeah, and so like that's the thing. Like that's the thing too is like you can get fined a lot, but you're not really mad about it in the end because you're like, well, it's it's going towards a good cause. So.
That is so highly effective. I don't know if I've ever actually heard of a trash talk that was so progressive.
Yeah, right.
Like in every aspect.
Yeah, very structured.
Wow, that's cool. Does that kind of teach you something about parenting?
I don't know. Maybe like when I feel like I'm bribing my daughter to do stuff. Yeah, like you can have some Skittles if you get later today if you listen or if you get dressed.
We're people, we're students of human behavior.
Exactly. Just dangling a carrot. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you told us about that.
Mm-hmm.
So totally different tact, but what is trash talk like against your rival teams?
That's way more aggressive and you're really like trying to go at somebody.
Because you want to get under their skin.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of varies by position group. Like O-linemen, it depends on the guy. Like some O-linemen will talk trash. Most O-linemen don't, I think, because it's a very, like, you have to think the whole play. It's cerebral, so you're focused on doing your job and making the right call, so you don't really have time in the play.
Okay.
But afterwards there might be some, like there might be like a pancake block and you give him a little dig, or the D lineman gets you on a play and you're like, and he comes back talking trash, and then but like the most, where it goes on the most is between DBs and receivers. Like they'll be talking like the whole game. Like they'll line up before the play and they're just like talking at each other, like jawing at each other, like
it's part of their job.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's part of their job, and it's really just a way to try to get in your opponent's head. A lot of the time, like that, it's like a psychological battle. So, and I remember there was like a really famous one recently that was, I was like, dude, that's like some like Hannibal Lecter shit. It was Jalen Ramsey tweeted that in college. He's one of the best corners in the league right now. He plays for the Rams now, I think. So he was traded from Jacksonville, but he tweeted that in college he would look up, if he was playing against a good receiver that week, like if he had the best receiver, he would go on his socials, on that receiver's socials, and find out if he had a girlfriend and find his girlfriend's name, and then talk, and then ask on the first play and go and ask him, hey, how's your girl? And
unsettling.
I was like, ooh, dude, that's psychological. Oh, that's bad. Yeah.
So you were a little bit removed from it in your day-to-day play.
Yeah.
But you realize like it's going on right over there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's not playing into your parenting.
No. Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's so fun having a daughter, isn't it? I don't have one, but I wish I did. I have a son.
That's cool. I wanted a boy, but I'm actually happy I got a daughter. Yeah.
That's cool. So I want to know about some of your other passions that you're doing now.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm trying to get into a master's program at Point Loma Nazarene for kinesiology, with the emphasis in sports performance, because I really enjoy. I found that like lifting, training through football I really just enjoyed lifting, just by itself. I love being in the weight room in the off season, and so that's something that I'm passionate about. And I didn't have, my undergrad wasn't in a related field, but I want to get into that and really learn like the science behind it, and hopefully go on to be a strength coach in the NFL or at the collegiate level, or even in somewhere private, but just be involved somewhere in strength and conditioning.
Very cool. I'm sure that you'll be a really great asset in that space.
Hopefully.
I think from a lot of different perspectives, not only the fact that you really have a love and a respect for what strength and conditioning will do for a player, that it's very, like, this is bread and butter, but the fact that you have so many experiences to share, that you've been there, that you've done that you get kind of the commitment that it takes.
Yeah, definitely can. I've been in their shoes, in the player's shoes, so I can relate to in that level. And I think that also will help, just building relationships with wherever I end up, just building relationships as a coach with those players, as someone they can trust, or someone who kind of has like a little bit of like an instant credibility, like, hey, this guy did what I did, so I have some respect there, or he knows what he's talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That I feel like that even came from your mentor, who is a former Marine.
Yeah.
You connected to him on a lot of levels.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Definitely. Yeah, Coach Turner, man.
Do you think that you would remain specific to football, or you would be open to working in strength and conditioning across?
Oh, I'd be open to working across with many sports, all sports, definitely. But I'd like to remain with football for at least some portion. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I had heard that you are interested in podcasting.
Yeah, I am a little bit. I've done a few. I've done a few before this, so yeah. A buddy of mine who I played with, Jared Odrick, and then another friend of mine, Derek Shelby, we both played in Miami. And Shelby and I still talk to him, regularly. He and I played at Utah together and then played in Miami together. So we have a pretty good relationship going back pretty far. And he actually came out here to LA. We went to go see Utah versus USC in the beginning of the college season this year. And then J.O. was staying in LA somewhere, and he was like, "Hey, I've been thinking about doing a podcast. You know, you guys come up and check it out, you know, or just if you want to do it, you know." And I kind of invited myself. I was like, "Yeah, for sure. Like, I'll go." And so we went up and did that one. And his idea was, he called it Fresh Out, and he kind of just asked on our perspectives of being former players moving into like regular life, like what's your transition been like, and what's changed, or what's your day-to-day like, or do you feel like anything's lacking, and then we also just talked about, like stupid stuff, like like just guys messing around, talking about like women or drinking or this or that. So it was really fun. And then just also some weird topics that Shelby had thought of that I thought were hilarious. But I did that one, and then I did one down in San Diego with this called the Tasteless Gentleman podcast, which is like a meme page, and they're really funny. I've followed them forever, and there's like 5 or 6 dudes that do the podcast, and I have do some memes on the page and stuff like that, and they're just really funny, like comedy thing. And they asked me to come down and kind of it's a similar thing, just talk about my experience, but more like nothing really to do with on the field, just like off the field, like shenanigans and like party stories and stuff like that. So that was really cool. And I thought it would be fun to kind of do something like in between both of those, like maybe something where you talk more about like fitness, sports, football, and then also like a comedy aspect, like a lighter side to it too. And yeah, I think, and lifestyle comedy thing like that. But I really thought I'd like to do something like that with former players, current players, athletes from different sports, all over the board, and just get their different perspectives. Yeah.
I really like that you're maintaining that community too. I just, in your conversation of Fresh Out, I think those are really healthy conversations. Yeah. And I will kick myself for not having the statistics on it, but I had heard that it was common for astronauts who had actually left orbit and looked back at Earth, that a fairly high number of them experienced depression later.
Yeah.
And that it might have something to do with, reaching this high and low. And a lot of us in our human experience will have that in different regards, but there are certain things that are extraordinary, like winning a Super Bowl. So I can see why you've got this community of people who've been there, who've done that. And then you have this huge community of people like me who are very interested. Like, what is that like? How did you deal with that? So
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still dealing with it, but like it's weird. The first, like, I don't want to say, maybe like the first 8 months to a year, I was like, this is awesome. Like, I don't got to be at any meetings. Like, I can do whatever I want. I can lose weight. I can like eat when I want to eat. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm free. Like, I'm finally in control of my own life. And it felt so good. And I hadn't really been back in Oceanside since I was like 18 for any extended period of time. Maybe the off season for a couple months as a pro, but I moved back. I bought a house with my family, and so I kind of have like a more permanent place, and I'm not, doing the off season here in San Diego, going to Denver or going to Miami, or so you kind of split time throughout the year. You're constantly like moving in different places, which can be exhausting in itself. And so it was good to just kind of be somewhere, like permanently. And it was just really fun experience, like just being able to enjoy simple things that you have to sacrifice for football.
Sure.
Just spending time with Landon, like taking trips, going places, maybe going to Vegas in the summer, like something like that, so, or taking a road trip up the 5, some cool stuff, things you don't have time to do when you're so busy like that. So it was amazing. And then like I kind of got to this period where I'm like, okay, like this is cool, but I'm kind of feeling restless, I'm kind of feeling unfulfilled, I guess you could say. Like I need something else. I need to find my next football. I need to find my next passion. And I'm fortunate enough to be in a situation where I can take the time to find that, and like I said, go back to school and start working on that again. And and it's weird. It's a weird thing about professional sports. and it relates to the astronaut thing, I think, too, a lot. It's that, like, you know, the average career in the NFL is 3.5 years, I think.
Wow.
It's not very long. There's a joke that the NFL stands for not for long, you know, and and if that's your dream since you're a kid and you realize it and you live it and you live it to its full potential, and then it's done, it's over. And you're like, well, what do I want to do now? You know, what's next? And
Especially because the demand was so incredible.
Exactly, right. And it's such a weird thing to have to think about, because, I mean, a strange thing to think about, because most people don't, I don't think most people, like, you know, they have what they do and then they have what they want to do, like a dream like that. And it's like, after that, is there supposed to be something after that? Like, what do we, so that's the kind of the transition, the biggest thing I think of the transition. And it can be for some people, and it definitely to an extent has been like that for me. It's a little bit of an identity crisis. Like, I wouldn't want to say crisis, but what you do becomes a part of who you are as a football player. So, or as any athlete, you know, and you when it's gone, it's like, well, I had so much of who I am wrapped up in this. Like, who am I without football? Who am I away from football? You know, like, do I actually, like, a lot of the values and core beliefs I learned through football, like, I do identify with those, but, like, a lot of them, like, is that really me, or is that just football? Was that put there through coaching and all this other stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you kind of have to, it's a little introspective too at times, I think.
I feel like from where I sit and from what you've told me, that you are taking so much of what you've gained and being generative with it, that you will take the knowledge that you have, you will grow it into something that you can share. And that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people shouldn't hire you, because they absolutely should. You're an asset. But I believe that these are things that you would give just from your heart. Like, I love how I feel in the weight room. I love what this knowledge can bring. And there's some 18-year-old who is going to just start eating carelessly, or they're going to, you know, arrive at this level of development and need somebody to give them a leg up, to just take them aside and say, you're doing this wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
How powerful is that?
That's
It's
huge.
incredible.
Yeah, you just brought it, like, full circle too. I haven't even thought about that. That's really cool. Yeah.
Well, I'm really happy that you took the time to come and talk with us today. I know I learned a lot and was very entertained as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much, Sam Brenner. All right. Take care.
See you.